This is our daily report. Amateur radio signal Z1. Rebroadcast on emergency repeater. Rebroadcast at your convenience. If anybody out there wants to get their repeaters up, please start doing that now. And we're going to go ahead and move with this. Normally this would be a Q&A thing, but we're overloaded with attendees, so if you're on the channel, I mean, it's a good thing, obviously, but it limited our ability to communicate on the line. So to prevent the shoes in the washing machine, just turn your stuff off and make sure we can't hear anybody on the channel. And if you want to, you can discuss anything with your local EB rep about whatever you wish to discuss, and we're going to get all that stuff to the air, and we're going to address it all beforehand. It may not be now, but we're going to get to it at some point. So we're going over a couple of key points right now just to get updates. We're still on this first day, and we've had a lot of people asking, we plan to stick to daily or maybe a day by daily thing? The reality is we have to broadcast every hour or how often we need to. I think we need to do that, and everybody should be ready to be in this for the long haul. It's just, this may not blow over. So again, it's important to keep that information flowing. And normally, I know that's not something that people are used to, is keeping this on, but I mean, it's going to be part of that new thing right now before we get dealing with this. So we love all the new support. It really has shown how great this ham community is, but you're going to hear how important it is not to miss these broadcasts. I'm already hearing people ask a question and they've completely missed the last messages. I understand right now that's true, but we got to keep up with that something, and there's things we've already addressed, and this thing is going to be dynamic, so you can't miss any of these broadcasts. You got to be on them. Now let me be clear, not a single broadcast. You can't miss any of these if you don't want to miss the topics that we're talking about. There will come a point when we don't have time to answer, frankly, and I'm just going to say it like this, dumb questions. So we're going to assume everybody's on board with that. Good? All right. That's where we're going to leave it. On to the agenda. We need to stress, if you see something, you say something. Yes, a lot of the information may be bad. There's people out there with conspiracy theories. There's tinfoil hat stuff. I get it. That's fine. I'm not going to try to correlate all that information out right now. I just want you to send it. Send it around. Let's figure it out. All we ask is not to relay false or outdated information. So if you know the information's already false, don't bring it back up to our attention. We've already addressed it. We've moved ahead. If it's something that we want to come back to, we may do that. But let's just leave it up to that and just try not to, if we've already disproved something or something we already know, it's just going to clog the pipeline up. So let's just call it like that and move ahead. I want to move on from this negative stuff and stop preaching to everybody. So I think you guys understand. So I'm just going to leave it at that. A lot of you have been complaining about the news, and we all agree completely. None of us at home base have any complaints about it. There's been somewhat of a disconnect between the major news providers reporting. The news itself has gotten everything wrong, but there's really not much we're going to be able to do about it. It's like they turned it into whoever was first to the ball game kind of thing, that's how news is going to be. And we're not sure the mayors or governors are even getting the correct intel. So we're going to have to fight this battle on our stage and get from there. And the CDC seems to be completely unable to even admit what's happening out there. And I'll be the first to admit that none of it makes any sense. It may have been some drug thing at one point, but it's clearly moved on beyond that now, even if it was a drug. So we have to address what we have here. We can't, some of this conjecture stuff, figuring it out, I'm going to leave that to bigger heads and brighter minds to move forward. So we gotta just deal with what we got. So we've seen National Guard activity in Pennsylvania, New York, and Georgia. They are mobilizing to protect government infrastructure with a key command to keep command structures running. Some have suggested protecting nuclear power plants, power stations, and other infrastructure, communication lines. It appears that they are short in manpower, but if they have enough for those activities if need be. still way ahead on what's happening, so that may change in the future, but regardless, those places should be good. While local police are still going to handle daily routines and city-based activities, that's the extent of the manpower they have right now. And I'm just going to say you shouldn't gauge any National Guard activity by where things are going down, though. We're having emergency operation members from the entire East Coast reporting that they have heard or seen things happening in their areas. But that's why we're calling you to assist to confirm this stuff, because it just sounds a little bit out there for me. There's areas where people can't get infected. There's no spread area, but there seems to be people out there that are sick. And that doesn't make any sense based on what we're being told. So if you have anybody out there, especially if you have some people from China and Russia, to figure out what's going on, those are two key areas we need to know about right now. We're just hearing too much weirdness coming from those areas. And if you got somebody in Afghanistan, we've actually heard somebody said rumors that that's where it all started. So a lot of drugs are coming from that area. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Again, it could be just conjecture. It could be real information. We don't know. So that's why I said, so we're doing this broadcast the way we're doing it, and just making sure everybody out there gets a word on it. So that being said, transmission rates right now seem to be off the chart. After the first hospital in Pittsburgh fell, it's been difficult, if not impossible, to figure out how it's communicated. What we're assuming at this time is any direct contact. We've heard about a goo that these guys are covered in. It's possible getting that in a wound or in your mouth or eyes may be the issue, but honestly, we just don't know. Obviously, the infected like to bite and grab. Maybe that's part of it. We don't know. Regardless, no sharing fluids is probably a good idea, regardless of what you're doing. So if you're an emergency worker and you're coming into contact with these things, maybe consider some protective measures, mask, gloves, hell, put some chainmail on, whatever works. If people judge you, that's their problem. The point for you is to make sure that all our guys out there, they're in the field, they're coming home safe. Now for the really bad news, if you can track this, the information we've gotten, and I consider this highly reliable, is you've got about 24 hours before it's all over. And if you die from it, you have minutes. And I hate saying that, but yeah, you heard that right. If you die from this, you have minutes. We've heard that. Way too many people telling us similar things, so we're just going to pass it along. I just remember to say, take it how you will, but that's what we're hearing, and that's from a reliable source. I know it's crazy. We're going to keep getting the information. Go out there, verify it, figure out what you got to do, and let us know. So, and once we're done figuring out and ruining that, we can move on from there. So, next point here. So we need to stress that you need to stay away from shelters. These camps are not helping the sick. We think they may be euthanizing them. There is no cure. There's nothing that slows us down. There's nothing that stops it. We're not even sure that they're actually helping anybody who isn't even sick. Some have been turned away, but that seems to be the you got lucky move, and that's how they get away with it. We don't even know what government agency is running these camps. Nobody in CDC or any kind of medical system know of any involvement with this. And none of these guys have military uniforms either. So I know everyone has said tinfoil hat, but that's what we're hearing. So like I said, we're passing it on. Those shelters went up way too fast. That's all I'm going to say. That they were just ready to go. Almost like they knew it was going to happen. So I don't know, but it's assured they haven't cured anybody, and there is no cure. That's just what we're hearing from all reliable sources. And it also looks like legislation will be passed in the House in at least certain areas, especially in New York. They're moving, and probably Pennsylvania, at least in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, that housing sick people will be made illegal. It'll be illegalized. So if you have somebody, I don't know what options we have there. We got to figure that out. And there's been no instructions. So they've already considered going from house to house, talking to people, getting reports. A lot of this is getting a little crazy in certain areas. But I really don't know what to give you on that. A lot of people have done pushback, but I mean, maybe this is a situation where we kind of say it is what it is. I don't know. I don't feel that way, but hey, you know, I get you guys' argument. I get it. Some have already considered bills that won't let people defend themselves either from sick people. So I don't know where we're going from that. We'll see where that goes. We'll just have to figure it out. So we also want to thank the people in law enforcement community for letting us know that shooting an infected person in the body is completely useless. Obviously hurting legs or other mobility will slow them down, but they're going to keep coming. They obviously don't feel pain as possible. They don't even function enough to know how to stop. The only thing that seems to stop them is head trauma that's bad enough to cause damage to the brain or spinal cord, which seems to be the best way. They seem to just shut them down that way. We're going to assume that massive damage such as fire, large objects, you know, car, whatever, those are options as well. And again, the best option is simply just to avoid them. If you can avoid sick people, you don't have to even worry about these options. That's going to be the best option of all time. But that's your options, so take them as you like. We promised we'd say the last part there, and I still agree with it. The truth is, don't go out looking for trouble, and there's a good chance you won't be wrapped up in it. We know that there are militias out there, and I know probably people hearing it right now that you guys are arming up, and it's no telling how long citizens themselves are going to do something before taking action, because they really haven't been told what to do, and we're just hearing more and more of it as we go along here. And if there are people that are sick and it's somehow spreading, we just don't know. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing here too. We just need to keep people informed, just keep one step ahead. And right now I think we're pretty far behind the 8 ball. We need to get caught up. So one of the big things we need to do right now is get the word out to those areas that haven't been impacted to keep the eye out. Any hospitals that has someone like this come in, they could end up with big problems real fast. One sick person could infect an entire area, and anyone that goes in to stop or be involved in them could fall ill as well, and we don't know how that's going to result. That's a concern we all have to consider, and we've heard nobody report on that. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is safe. If that gets you thinking, then so be it. They could be outside your door right now, and we never know. And when it happens, it may be too late to even call for help. And I'm not trying to scare people. I just want everybody to be ready. I don't want anybody listening to this to get sick. I don't want you going out and dealing with anything. I want us to come together and get through this with no trouble, and I think we can do it, and that's why we put this thing up, and we're going to keep doing it until we get it all resolved. If all goes well, this blows over in a week or two, we can be back to enjoying our worthless lives. That's going to be the end of Z1. You guys can disconnect your repeaters right now, and we'll be back broadcasting to talk to you guys soon.